Hello, Reiki Healing Hope family. Welcome back. If you're new to the community, this is the Reiki Healing Hope community. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, to comment. I answer all of your comments. I love to know what's going on. And I only ask that you only post things for our highest vibrational good so that we may maintain this community as a safe community for us to all just come to let our hair down, let our auras out and just enjoy. If you would like some extra healing, I have a Sunday distance 11:11 healing group. And what that is just every Sunday at 11:11 p.m. I do a distance session for about 5 to 10 minutes for all of my current and my past clients, just praying for general health, financial, success, or anything that you are specifically looking for. So if you'd like to be added to the list, the link is in the description box below. So today we're going to do some more wisdom learning. So we've talked about astrology, we've talked about numerology, we've talked about shamanism. And so now we're actually going to go down into a subculture of shamanism called Ayahuasca. So if you're ready, let's get started. And because we like to start all of our videos out the same way, or our healing sessions out the same way, let's say a prayer just to join us together. So, do I have your permission to say a prayer? It is not a religious prayer, just a prayer to connect us down in our individual healing journeys and community as we receive this knowledge. Do I have your permission? Okay. Let me take your hands. Okay. Dear Mother, Father, God, and all for our highest good, please connect us to the Reiki Masters, the Ascendant Masters, Master Jesus, Master Buddha, Master Kutumi. Please connect us to the Archangels, the Spirit Animals, Spirit Guides, Ancestors, our lineage, and all for our highest vibrational good only. Please root us down in our individual healing journeys and allow us to be there for each other as a community. Please allow us to receive this knowledge as well as to feel open to sharing the knowledge we know with community for the greatest benefit of all. I say all of these in the name of I am, Ashe, Ashe. Okay. So go ahead and take 3 deep breaths just to get us in the state of reception. Exhale. 2 more. Final time. And as you breathe in, I'm going to lift and take things off. So, as I just clear us out a little bit, give us something to focus on, I am so very excited to talk about this. I actually personally don't, or have, well, no, I can say I don't know a lot about ayahuasca. I don't know a lot about the experience, kind of the psychedelic experience of having a journey through substance like ayahuasca or something like peyote. I don't know. And when I first heard of these things, my instant thought was, oh heck no, I'm not about to do this. Oh, not at all am I going to do this. And there's a process in it called purging, in which it's a spiritual part, but it's a physical part too, in which a person is literally just kind of throwing up, just clearing you out here. Just enjoy as we talk. And definitely add your insight to the ayahuasca journey, because I would love to know if even some of you all have done the journey itself. And so what brought this up is that, as you all know, I love healing and I love researching healing and the different modalities out there. Though I am trained in Reiki, I definitely see that, we're all just coming from the same energetic field. So I love to learn. So specifically about ayahuasca, let me do me now. specifically about ayahuasca, what I was learning about it is that it's really good if you have addiction problems, if you have a very deep need to be healed, that you don't feel like, or that you are not getting any results from other, not just styles of healing, but even kind of conventional or traditional medicine. If you have a deep trauma that you're still experiencing from, if you've had kind of this crippling addiction that you cannot get over, people will do this ayahuasca journey, or the peyote, or whatever type of plant, and the practitioner to have this kind of psychedelic journey in order to come to a deeper awareness and ultimately a healing. So from what I was reading about the results of it, there are actually a lot of people who go in and they say, like, I had this experience in this crippling addiction that I've had to drugs. What I was researching yesterday was drug addiction, sex addiction, general trauma and abuse of growing up. And they're saying, like, I go into this experience, and having had that experience, I no longer have the cravings for this drug. Or for the lady that I was looking at with the sex addiction, she talked about going into the experience, and her first day of the journeying, she was taken back to a time in her childhood in which she had to look at her parents and kind of grapple with her relationship with her parents. And she felt, this has not even touched my addiction. And, the bigger view of what's going on is it's going back to the foundations of where this addiction started to kind of form and started to overcompensate in her adult life. So it definitely has to be looked at and touched on and things like that. Now, the thing about ayahuasca is it's one of those things that sounds like you have to confront pain. So not only are you going to be in physical pain, but you're going to be in emotional pain. And the point and the purpose of that is that you're literally facing your demons. And when I say demons, you all know how I feel about the use of the word demons, demonics, bad. I look at it as lower vibrational energy, lower vibrational experiences that take hold of us. And I think that helps separate kind of like the religious context of kind of what's been ingrained in people's heads. But so she was going through this experience, and this purging of like having to face and having that courage to face things that are physically and emotionally damaging, and then you're not physically and emotionally heavy, and you're not even in your current state of mind. You're in kind of this psychedelic trip. And so being able to face that, people come out having these transformative life experiences because they were able to face that, and they may have had fear that they couldn't face it, and here it is, they face it. And so let me just give you kind of like the rundown of my understanding of how it happens. And if you're interested in this, or if you're about to do it yourself, if you've already done it, or really a reputable ceremony, let us know in the comment section. We love to learn. I think after doing some research, I'm like, okay, I could do this. But before, just my kind of assumptions of the experience, I was like, oh no, I'm not about to be in pain. And also let me note that some people do not have as strong as an experience, and it isn't always kind of a negative thing. Some people feel ultimate peace, some people feel ultimate joy, but from what I've learned, it's more about the amount of what you're taking that kind of dictates how your body's going to respond. So what ayahuasca is my understanding is it's two kinds of plants. It's a plant and a root. traditional in kind of a South America, Latin America area, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I've told you I'm not an expert on this, but this is just from what I've been gathering through research. And the plant itself, the names are escaping me, but the plant itself has a chemical that our pineal gland releases. But if we just eat the plant by itself, our stomach acid will break it down, so our body doesn't feel that. But being mixed with a certain root, the root itself has the inhibitors that allow these chemicals to go through our actual digestive system and actually be able to make it into our brain. So shamans, or the traditional shamans of the area, they discovered this experience. And it's not just a certain kind of plant. You can go different places. There are different psychedelic plants. You've ever heard of like licking a frog? So these are these experiences that ancient wisdom teachers have learned, and the way that they receive the knowledge. Honestly, maybe it was just somebody out there licking a toad, okay? But the idea is that the information was received by the universe, God, source, energy giving to people. And shamans were the first religious people, spiritual people, as well as the first doctors. So they were the ones who received this wisdom. So they would take this substance, go into a meditative state in order to understand more about the universe, to bring it back to their people, to heal, to guide their people. And you see that even now, where shamans will go into a shamanic journey. Maybe they're not taking any substance to do it, but the idea is that they're going into the spirit world to receive information, bring it back out, and for their client, they want to heal this thing, or they want to give some resolution, or they want to give some insight of what their client should do, as well as their people. Because shamans at that time were a central part of community in the way that we would look at religious institutions, especially now. I think it's starting to separate, because people are becoming more open about their spiritual journey. But there's a time, and even still places today, where the religious institution was the backbone of society. Looking at people of color, specifically African Americans in the U.S., looking at history, where the church was the backbone. It was the place where you get finance. It was the place where you had reprieve. It was the place where, even though hate crimes happened to people in church settings, it was kind of like that area in which you can't really devalue, for example, Christianity. You can't really devalue the religious institution you use to colonize people. So I'm using that example to basically explain that the shamans of their time, they were the backbone. They were very respected. They were able to give insight to things that people didn't know how to do. Like, there was not cures, vaccines, common medicines, no anti-inflammatories, like none of these kind of strong medications that we can take now. So they were using this insight in these energetic healing experiences in order to give people some reprieve. And there was just some things that they could not fix. And it was like it is today. It's a one-on-one basis. It's when you come into your healing experience, you can be healed if you are open and receptive to be healed. But it also has to be the will of God, the universe. It has to be what you in the universe has agreed on ultimately. So it's above, the shaman. It's above the Reiki practitioner. It's above all of that. It's just giving you some insight, and hopefully to help you to just feel peace in your journey as you're going through the journey, twists and turns, ups and downs, and things like that. So that's where it came from, the wisdom. So different groups will take the plant, they'll get that insight, they'll share it. And when they go through the experience, they talk about coming back out, and it's like being reborn, having a new life. It's a very, very powerful way to kind of jumpstart a healing reaction within yourself to be able to look at all your pain and come out on the other end. Now, let's look at it nowadays. So nowadays, there are certain retreats that you can go to. The one I was looking at was in Costa Rica. They even talked about different places here. Well, I'm saying here in the US, like you all are in the US, that's not the case. But in the US, there are also places where you can go that they incorporate ayahuasca into their ceremony. But it really is kind of like you just need to know kind of who's who or where to go. Because what I was learning is that there's kind of also this dark side of ayahuasca. So there haven't been a lot of people don't talk about often like, oh, I've just had this negative experience in ayahuasca, because the negative is part of the healing journey. But the one thing that did come up are their deaths related to this kind of ayahuasca or taking these drinks and having this experience. And I did read at least one that did happen. And so I'm assuming probably more have happened. And what happened was, this was like maybe a 19-year-old. This had been a couple of years ago. They took a couple drinks. So imagine that you're taking a cup, and it's also diluted. So people are diluting and concentrating their brew differently. So you're taking a cup, right? That's a strong experience. Sometimes people just take just a little bit just to see how your body reacts. So this person had taken several cups, and this was in a traditional setting, in a like a tribe or a community. And they took 2 cups. They said they didn't feel anything, and then they came back the next day, took another cup, and they had to be rushed to the hospital because the chemical reaction, same chemical I was talking about that, goes and creates that psychedelic trip. It created an overconcentration, and the person had a bad response, and they ended up passing away. Now, with that, I'm sure that probably wasn't the first time that has ever happened, but I think what it shows is that there has to be a trained person, a trained shaman, a trained facility, a trained kind of group of people to guide through that experience. Because, if someone is not feeling anything and they've taken a lot, you got to be cut off. You can't continue to go through that. What I liked about hearing about the ayahuasca experience in the US, it was I saw it with, you can look this up on YouTube. It was journeying ayahuasca in like Kentucky. Vice did a whole episode on it. Is that they were giving them literally the smallest amount. They did a 2-day journey. The first day was like just testing out what works with their body, seeing how they're reacting. The second day, they take a little bit more, and they encourage them to say that if you want more, you can ask for more, but let it kick in first. And so that's a really, really important part, the dosing. So that's something to be mindful, doing your research with reputable places. And I know in the energy field, we can all get so excited about, oh my gosh, this is going to solve my problem. But look at both sides. This also brings up the fact that there are some people, because this is essentially tourism, people want to have this ayahuasca experience. That means a lot of people are popping up who don't necessarily know what they're doing. So if you don't know what you're doing, energetically and physically, you could hurt somebody. You don't know the right dosing. You're not able to guide them through their transformation for their greatest good. So definitely go to reputable sites. And also, it is an investment from it's kind of like, I'll call it what it is, a resort. The resort that I saw in Costa Rica that specifically is for, this, it's very, upscale for that area. It's going to be expensive. So, you have to be mindful of what you pay for. Imagine or expect to be paying quite a bit of money to have this experience if it's a reputable place. Now, there are other places that are even better in a traditional setting, but you really just have to know that's more of like if you're family, in community, where it's like, oh, go here and this is what, you're giving to pay for it. But just be very careful that you don't just randomly see somebody's like, oh, you want to trip off this and you just take it. Don't do that at all. And I want to give you both sides because, I want you to be safe. I would want myself to be safe. Researching all of this is super important. And so ayahuasca is just the one type of drink. You can do peyote. There are other types of drinks as well that are kind of central to different parts. And also that spiritual journey itself. The point is that you're kind of at a corner where you feel like you cannot dig yourself out. And there are a lot of things you can do. Having this kind of experience is just one experience. You can go and have a shamanic healing from a shaman. You can go and you can do peyote, ayahuasca. It's literally, it goes to the beginning of whatever your trauma is, and it can go back into your karma too. So this is not something to just do lightly. It's something that you really thought about. You feel like you're kind of backed into a corner and you need to take drastic measures. And I'm just saying, do it in a safe way. So from my opinion, would I do this? As of 24 hours ago, yes. Prior to 24 hours, no. And the reason why I feel that is that you all know my medical journey and my healing journey within itself, both emotionally and physically. And a part of that journey was I experienced debilitating migraines for 15 years. And when I would when I would have these migraines, they sounded very similar to when people are having these trips. And the way I would describe it is that I would start to get the traditional migraine symptoms. I would see aura. I would lose peripheral sight. I would have numbness in my left side. I wouldn't be able to walk. I would have hot flashes, completely nauseous. Of course, the pain in my actual head. And then as time progressed, I started to lose speech ability during that. So neurological things happening at that time. But ever since I had it when I was younger, I always felt going into it a crazy amount of pain for like 4 or 8 hours. And then coming out, having that release of the pain, I always felt and learned something very deep about myself. I would always have this conversation or this journey going on within myself. That's why I found it so fascinating learning about ayahuasca. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really how I described. And I remember telling my mother, especially when I was younger, when I was in high school, and I would just come out of this experience of this, debilitating migraine and then say something to her like, I think I need to just, let go. I've been holding on to things that I'm holding on to too long. I need to let go. She's looking at me like I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She's like, okay, take a nap, But I realized that it was a similar experience. Now, I'm at the point in my life where luckily it's been over a year, knock on wood, that I have not experienced migraine and that I'm not experiencing this migraine. I had one headache one time, one intense headache, but no migraine. So I was like, oh, I got this. But in how I worked with that was my Reiki teacher actually was the one who healed me, as well as I started going to a homeopathic doctor. So that combination helped me and my body tremendously. But what I realized from it and having that conversation with my teacher, who I was just going to see at that time before she was my official teacher, was that I had boundary issues. I didn't value myself enough to tell somebody no, and I literally would work myself to the extreme, but then I would make excuses for others, but then I had this built up resentment. So every time I would have an onset of a migraine, it would be because I would say yes when I wanted to say no, and it built up resentment, but then I got so mad at myself for having that resentment. So it literally triggered a chemical reaction within my body to increase, the blood vessels going into my brain and create this migraine experience. And it really was a way for me to not have to do what I had to do in that moment, to pull me out of it, to not have to do it, but in a very aggressive way, because I was not setting boundaries. And literally just having this is why I talk. We do the physical healing as well, but I talk. It was actually not her laying hands on me via Reiki. It was the energy and the wisdom of her communicating with me about what was going on that kind of like was a switch that I then was receptive internally. So I like to use words as healing. And so after she explained it to me, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. And the next time it came up, it was in a work related thing. It was with a person that kind of always would kind of like dump on me. And I just was like, and I made up in my mind that, I'm going to get fired. I can't say no, you think of the worst. And then I sat back and I was like, nope, I can't do it. And you know what they said? Oh, okay. I was like, dang, I could have did this the whole time. And I started building up boundaries. I just started saying, no, I'm not going to do it. Hey, you want to go out? You want to leave at 11? Nope. If you don't catch me before 6 o'clock, I'm not going out. I like to get my sleep. I like to be all zen. So, not to go on a tangent, I just really wanted to share this wisdom and this experience. So please leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you think about the journey, if there's any corrections you want to make to what we were talking about, as well as if you're going on it, you've gone on it, some reputable sites. And communicate with each other, community, because I think it's a beautiful thing. You don't need me to be a part of that communication, as well as we all benefit. I'm benefiting. I'm going to keep on learning. I hope you like this wisdom aspect. And, until next time, let's clear us out. I get so excited. I love to talk about these things, and I don't really feel like I spend most of my life working in a spiritual capacity, and I don't get to talk about these things. So once we talk about them, I get so excited. I try to post one video a week, and I'm just trying to be respectful of the community to not overpost, because I feel like sometimes we're here more for the healing than we are for kind of the wisdom, which is completely fine, but it's what I like, so that's why I get so excited. I was like, okay, calm down, Jessica. They know. So I'm so proud of you. Let me know. Again, give me an update on what's going on with your life path healing that we did at the beginning of the week. Just running back that Mercury is going into retrograde November 1st. And that we are in the pre-shadow period. So you're going to have a lot of technology issues. Budget twice the amount of time to get to places. Budget twice the amount of energy to try to figure things out, especially technology wise. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. Let me know what's going on in the comments. So if no one said it to you, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I love you. I'm so excited for what you got going on. Be nice to yourself for the next November, as you're going through this internal experience. Meditate. Let me know if you try ayahuasca.